What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. Everybody in the chat, I see you. Thank you so much for your messages already. And hit that like button. Give me some love. We're getting some new members here. I'm building up the channel. I see Mixed Chick. I know she's a member. What's up? What's up? What's up? Subscribe. Here comes Drama. She's one of my first members. Subscribe and share, everybody. Jen S, thank you so much. Everything's going pretty good with me. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope everybody's able to get some time in with family, but there's a lot of news going on. We're here to discuss the restraining order that Thee Stallion is seeking against Tory Lanez. That was just filed today, and I've got the documents on it. Everybody hit up the comments. Let me know where you're at. We're going to pull up the documents here and go over it and discuss. This was just a new filing in Los Angeles County Superior Court. Thee Stallion files for a restraining order against Tory Lanez, saying that despite his 10-year prison sentence for shooting her, he's still continuing his campaign of harassment. And they cite his relationship with online bloggers, including Milagro. And they also cite their lawsuit against Milagro in the Southern District of Florida, which we have talked about elsewhere. Twink Steven, you are, did I pronounce that right? Probably not, but you're listening at work. That's great to hear. Anything I can do to help you pass the time. We are perched and ready. Thank you, Bell Curve. Megan Tory, the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, I know. I'm at the point. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. But first off, there is a hearing on this filing on January 9th. So we will check that out there. Yeah, payment proof to Milagro. I got that. Got that today. And it seems like it's probably, it'll be part of this maybe, but it's more for the lawsuit against her because they're using the allegation that Tory has paid her as a evidence in their claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress, saying that Milagro is intentionally harassing Megan online, and that the fact that she's working with Tory directly is a sign that she's intentionally inflicting emotional distress on Megan. So I think we might hear about the payment in here too. She is mentioned in the restraining order hearing. So yes, Megan the Reporter, C. Miller, thank you for remembering the nickname. I've got some Megan the Reporter merchandise. Actually, somebody just emailed me, lawyer down where I used to live, ordered a Megan the Reporter sweatshirt for his holiday white elephant party, and somebody's going to be quite lucky tomorrow when they get it. He just got it in the mail, and he texted me that he had it. So yeah, and it's $3,000. That was probably Uber and Lyft in California. Yeah, I do want to see. And these payments are for a period when there was the restraining order in place involving the criminal case. So I think they would need like more recent payments to show to be real good evidence in their restraining order. I think this is more just payments, better evidence for their lawsuit against Milagro, where they allege the intentional infliction of emotional distress. But let me see here. Let me pull up the document here. I just got a text message from somebody, but I realized I don't have my phone on me, so I can't like quickly check it. But let me see here. Have I uploaded that? I have not. But we've got it. It's 194 pages, the full petition that Thee Stallion's lawyers filed, but a lot of those are attachments, so we don't need to. The actual affidavit of what she writes is a little smaller. But thanks everybody for tuning in. We are here. Yes, Megan the Reporter. That's the name. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Here comes Drama. Here comes Drama and Mixed Chick. Those are the two subscribers. Everybody, I'm building up this channel with more memberships and everything. I was so busy with the YSL trial, just kind of only doing clips. I didn't do as many lives as I wanted to do. But now that that's over, I want to do a lot more lives to bring you guys the news. So I'd like to do more with the channel, get some memberships built up, and really build a community here. And maybe we can work with some other YouTubers. I know I've talked to. She's kind of the law nerd, Emily. She covers like the Girardi stuff, which, by the way, his sentencing is technically scheduled for Friday. This lawyer here in Los Angeles, scammy lawyer. But there's a lot of stuff to cover in here. But I know the Megan Thee Stallion stuff, anything Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, everyone is interested in, and everybody wants to see the documents and see what's going on there, which completely makes sense. So let me see how I can bring these up here. Thank you guys for, yes, cheers to 2025. Daniela, you're right. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm kind of waiting for the room to build before we get into the dirt too much. But I do have the actual affidavit, and the news is the news is there's a January 9th hearing. Yeah, I mean, it is, when you read through we'll read through it together, but it is kind of like, okay, so what do they want from him? I mean, he's already locked up. I mean, how much more restrained can he be? But I mean, and then the idea that, I mean, was he just not allowed to, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the judge actually thinks of it, because it's a little unclear what they're actually asking him to do, because they cite a court filing that he filed, the habeas petition that he filed that was like a day before her album came out. But of course, the defense on that is just that he was, his appeal was open and he was doing an appeal. So I don't think, it's not like the judge can restrain him from filing any more court documents or anything like that. Although I think that window is pretty much closed. I think they could file something new, but his appeal is pretty much briefed. So I don't think there's going to be anything more of that. But it's not, I don't think a judge could or would order him, that he can no longer file any documents in his appeal or something. So, yeah, I think the payment is more if somebody's saying, could this be used to strengthen the case against Milagro? And I think the payments are good for that, because like I was saying, for the payment schedule that I saw that they're apparently going to cite is for an older period of time. Not recent. So I think to have it be really good evidence for a restraining order, they would need more evidence of more recent payments here. But here, and this is, I guess, Lanez's father's name is Sonstar Carlisle John Peterson. So they got his Zelle records and shows these payments to excuse me, gotta get some water here. Thanks for tuning in. They showed these payments to Milagro, and I know it doesn't say Milagro on there, but this was sent to me, and I guess it's going to be cited in the case. But Zelle, yeah, Zelle. So we'll see. We'll see what they cited in, but it's not cited in their filing, but I think it can be later or something. We'll check it out. And you guys have probably, if you guys have been on Twitter, you've seen the basics here, but the actual filing here is. Make this stuff go away up here. This sidebar. $3,000. Some of the stuff, I mean, they're citing they cite statements from, well, let's see here. This is just kind of the basic form that they fill out. Full name, Megan Pete, Mari Henderson. She's based in LA. Alex Spiro is based in New York City. And then Mari Henderson has been doing a lot of stuff for them. She also filed the John Doe complaint on behalf of Jay-Z that was filed against Tony Busby. And Spiro's name isn't on that, but He's also a possible witness in that, because I think he's gotten so much contact with Tony Busby that it would make sense that he wouldn't be listed as a lawyer on that, because it might be called as a witness. But Mari Henderson and Quinn Emanuel obviously do a lot of work with Rock Nation. Daystar Peterson, Tory Lanez, California Correctional Institution. He's still there. That's where he's been. They all the inmates go to like an intake prison, which he did, and then he got settled there. Criminal case. When did it happen? 2021 to 2024. This is the harassment. And this is where they're supposed to put, how did the person harass you? But if there's not enough space, they can attach something, which is what they did. And then did a user threaten a gun? And it says on July 12th, 2020, Mr. Peterson fired 5 rounds of a semi-automatic firearm at Miss Pete, who had to undergo surgery for the serious gunshot wound she sustained to both her feet. On December 23rd, 2022, Mr. Peterson was convicted of 3 felony counts: assault with a semi-automatic handgun, carrying a loaded, unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and discharging a firearm with gross negligence. Mr. Peterson was sentenced to 10 years in state prison, but continues his campaign of harassment from behind bars. So let's get into why exactly they say that. There's just checking boxes here. Stay away orders. I asked the court to order the person to stay at least 100 yards. I mean, he's in prison. But yeah, I mean, my home, my workplace. Yeah, I don't think there's any risk of that right now. And I'd have to look up how long this order would be in effect. But his parole date isn't till like 2029. It's like September 2029. He's eligible for parole. So we've got a ways to go. But it says Mr. Peterson has continued to engage in a campaign of harassment online and through social media, utilizing third parties to further victimize Miss Pete. As a result, Miss Pete requests that Mr. Peterson be ordered not to contact Miss Pete directly or indirectly, or harass or intimidate her directly or indirectly online. I think that last part is just so vague. Like, I mean, directly, sure, but indirectly is kind of the question there. And it's like, how much of a, can he control the actions of others, and how is a judge going to like think that's enforceable? But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to the hearing. It says Miss Pete does not have any direct contact with Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson is also currently incarcerated. And that's the end of the form. But then this is what we want to see, is the actual affidavit of what are they actually arguing here. Here, make it take up the screen better. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hit the like button. For anybody just tuning in, let's see here. Megan Thee Stallion is Megan Thee Stallion is asking the court to issue a restraining order against Tory Lanez. She wants Tory Lanez restrained from directly or indirectly harassing her online, and she cites his relationship with blogger Milagro Grams. And we just went through the form here, but we'll get into the affidavit here, which if you guys go to legalaffairsandtrials.com and subscribe to my Substack, I'm going to send this all out later, because I think there's going to be probably an update on that lawsuit, the federal lawsuit against Milagro, tomorrow. So I think I'm going to send out everything together. But it says this is the beginning of Megan Thee Stallion's restraining order petition against Tory Lanez that was just filed today. She says, introduces his criminal case, describes the shooting. It says, prior to the incident, Mr. Peterson and Ms. Pete were friends. On December 23rd, 2022, following a near month-long trial, it was crazy how long that trial was. It should have been like a week. A jury convicted Mr. Peterson of 3 felony counts. Yeah, we've been through that. Mr. Peterson is a violent and dangerous criminal, and his established pattern of behavior demonstrates the reasons this civil harassment restraining order is necessary to protect Miss Pete and her well-being. Mr. Peterson has traumatized Miss Pete since 2020. Even now, while behind bars, Mr. Peterson shows no signs of stopping, despite being convicted and sentenced to 10 years in state prison for shooting Miss Pete. Mr. Peterson continues to subject her to repeated trauma and re-victimization. It says on July 12th, 2020, Mr. Peterson fired 5 rounds of a semi-automatic firearm. Okay, we've been through this. Yeah, serious. Who had to undergo emergency surgery for the serious gunshot wound she sustained to both her feet. Hours before the incident, Mr. Peterson and Miss Pete were at a social gathering together in Los Angeles, California. Mr. Peterson, and Miss Pete's then friend Kelsey Harris left the party together with Mr. Peterson's driver, Jaquan Smith. During the drive, an argument ensued between Mr. Peterson and Miss Pete. After Mr. Smith pulled over on a residential street on or around the Hollywood Hills, Miss Pete exited the vehicle. While she was walking away from the vehicle, she heard Mr. Peterson exclaim, "Dance, bitch," before shooting 5 rounds at her, striking both her feet. On October 8th, 2020, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office charged Mr. Peterson with felony assault with a semi-automatic firearm. Shortly thereafter, on October 13th, 2020, a protective order was issued against Mr. Peterson, forbidding him from getting within 100 yards of Miss Pete. Later on, February 21st, 2021, as a result of his escalating use of social media to re-victimize Miss Pete and portray her as a liar, a gag order was issued against Mr. Peterson, barring him from contacting or harassing Miss Pete and from discussing evidence of the case with outside parties. Mr. Peterson violated both the protective order and the gag order leading up to his criminal trial, and his bail was increased as a result. In or around October 2020, Mr. Peterson assaulted musician August Alsina. Given Mr. Peterson's violent propensities, the prosecution successfully argued that Mr. Peterson posed a threat to society and that monetary fines were not enough of a deterrent for his violent behavior. Consequently, Mr. Peterson was placed on house arrest. On December 3rd, 2022, following a near 1-month trial, Mr. Peterson was convicted of the 3 felonies. It says, even from behind bars, Mr. Peterson continues to terrorize Miss Pete. Due to inadequacies and loopholes in the criminal justice system, Miss Pete is currently without any formal protection against Mr. Peterson's attacks because the protective order issued against Mr. Peterson was only in effect from 2020 through 2023, before his sentencing. Given a recent change in the law, the criminal court can no longer issue a post-conviction criminal protective order against Mr. Peterson absent a very narrow set of circumstances involving incidents of domestic violence, elder abuse, child abuse, and/or abduction and/or stalking. Continues here. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hit the like button if you can. Let everybody know we're here. Shout out to the replay crew. But given a recent change in the law, there we go. Since Miss Pete and Mr. Peterson do not meet the definition of a dating relationship as outlined in MA versus BF, that's a case law that they're citing, past case. Miss Pete cannot obtain a criminal protective order against Mr. Peterson for abuse stemming from her domestic violence, MA versus BF, even though this case was specifically prosecuted by the Family Violence Unit of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Given the limited circumstances in which a victim may seek a post-conviction criminal protective order against the victim's assailant, Ms. Pete is left without protection at a time when she needs it most. Most concerning is that if Ms. Pete is not issued at least a civil harassment restraining order, she will be left without any protection for when Mr. Peterson is released from prison. This possibility alone causes Ms. Pete severe emotional distress and makes her feel fearful for her life. It says, it is counterintuitive and wholly illogical that Ms. Pete had protection by way of protective orders and gag orders issued against Mr. Peterson while he was deemed innocent, i.e. pre-conviction, but that such predictions are no longer available to Ms. Pete due to a mere technicality of the law now that he has been convicted and proven guilty. The only recourse she now has is to seek a civil harassment restraining order against Mr. Peterson to end his ongoing campaign of harassment, which underscores the urgent need for a restraining order to protect Miss Pete and prevent further harm. Okay. Mr. Peterson's attempts to re-traumatize and re-victimize Miss Pete recognize no limits. Indeed, they continue even while he is behind bars. The civil harassment restraining order is even more necessary now that Mr. Peterson has, yet again, waged another campaign of harassment against Miss Pete. One of Mr. Peterson's latest stints involves his filing of a petition for writ of habeas corpus, purposely filed one day before the premiere of Miss Pete's Amazon Prime documentary titled Thee Stallion, in her words, alleging that Mr. Peterson's constitutional right to due process had been violated by the government's failure to produce and preserve evidence. And they included the habeas petition in their 193-page filing. But Mr. Peterson claims that the gun and fragments from the incident are missing. They are not, and that it is now impossible to conduct further testing that might help prove his innocence. These assertions are demonstrably false. Indeed, the Office of the Attorney General of California responded to Mr. Peterson's outrageous claims. Without providing any documentary evidence or a declaration from either habeas counsel or custodian of evidence for the Los Angeles Police Department, petitioner simply asserts that the firearm and bullet fragments have not been preserved. Yeah, that was pretty bad. A true and correct copy of the Attorney General's reply brief is attached hereto as Exhibit 13 at 8. The Attorney General added, petitioner has not satisfied his burden of providing reasonably available documentary evidence that would support his factual assertions. His failure to do so is especially significant in this case because his unsupported claim that the LAPD has misplaced or lost evidence is demonstrably false. The Attorney General's filing also included a declaration from the LAPD affirming that the gun remains in its custody, which directly refutes Mr. Peterson's claims. While Mr. Peterson distorts and recklessly disregards the truth in his desperate attempt to appeal his conviction, his false assertions have reignited a slew of negative, harmful, and defamatory comments directed to Miss Pete. These comments, much like those made near, during, and after the criminal trial, jeopardize the sanctity of the criminal proceedings and properly question the veracity of Miss Pete's statements, including comments questioning whether she was ever shot, despite Mr. Peterson's conviction by a jury of his peers on this same issue. Mr. Peterson harasses Miss Pete through third parties. This is the good stuff here. Indeed, Mr. Peterson continues to harass, bully, and antagonize Miss Pete from prison by and through the use of third-party online bloggers, who Mr. Peterson employs to spread defamatory statements about Miss Pete. For example, one blogger, Elizabeth Milagro Cooper, I thought it was the other way around, has published several false statements about Miss Pete in the criminal trial. Miss Cooper's false statements are the subject of the civil lawsuit, Megan Pete versus Milagro Elizabeth Cooper, filed in the Southern District of California. As detailed in the complaint, Miss Cooper serves as Mr. Peterson's puppet and mouthpiece. Mr. Peterson has publicly confessed that Milagro-grams is the realist. Indeed, even a former close friend of Miss Cooper's, King Norris, admitted that Miss Cooper worked alongside Mr. Peterson to smear Miss Pete's reputation. King Nor also has affirmed that Miss Cooper has a disdain for Megan and that she talks to Tory's daddy in an effort to leak information to the press that comes directly from Mr. Peterson. So yeah, we're getting through the affidavit in the restraining order here, guys, that Thee Stallion wants against Tory Lanez. So hit the like button if you're around. Give me a subscribe too. I'm building up the channel, getting more members. We've got some members in there saying hi. So it says Miss Cooper has made numerous false and unsubstantiated statements that attempt to call into question the integrity of the criminal trial, including acting like I'm crazy. Where are the bullet fragments that were referenced as metallic fragments in court, and that the doctor that took them out called an assistant who testified that there was no nerve damage to the stand and said, bye. Child, where is the man that treated her for glass? A true and correct copy of this tweet is attached here too. I don't think that Tory is innocent because of anything he did before that day. I can't speak on what a human will do. I think he's innocent because before waters got muddied, an independent witness saw a fight between two women that they refused to acknowledge after finding out that one had betrayed the other. No one proved who the gun belonged to. His DNA was inconclusive, and he wasn't the only one with gunshot residue on his hands, and every key witness contradicted themselves on the stand. These facts are why there's no lawsuit. They exist and validate my stance. It's giving no nerve damage like the doctor on the stand said. And if y'all believe her is why who shot Megan a question that's being posed. Y'all so timid, speak up. If you were still willing to toy with the idea that someone else could have caused her harm, then you should be able to acknowledge that that's the very reason why he doesn't need to be sitting in a cell. Right on time for the documentary. Yawn. According to recently filed paperwork in the Tory Lanez case, the gun and bullet fragments associated with the crime have gone missing. This stuff, though, I mean, she's just quoting a court document, but I think they're trying to show like the coordination. But this stuff is also mentioned in the defamation lawsuit against her too. Yeah, and that's the habeas. On October 28th, 2024, Ms. Cooper reposted a video of herself asking, "Can you even prove that she was shot?" A true and correct copy of this tweet is attached here too as Exhibit 10. On April 21st, 2023, following his conviction, Mr. Peterson released an Instagram video and statement to his millions of social media followers, making baseless accusations and calling into question the integrity of the criminal trial. Mr. Peterson proclaimed, "Today I take a stance as an innocent black man, wrongfully convicted of a crime I did not commit." Mr. Peterson added that the prosecutors in the criminal trial, quote, "unlawfully misused their authority to hide and suppress any and all exculpatory evidence that exonerates him or furthers his innocence." According to Mr. Peterson, he was completely robbed and deprived of a fair trial. Mr. Peterson also accused the prosecutors in the criminal trial of manipulating a false narrative that left him with no choice but to expose and make aware the practices, the behind-door deals, and the unjust system used to illegally convict him and countless other minorities. Just a few days later, on April 25th, 2023, Mr. Peterson repeated similar comments by claiming that the prosecutors lied about Mr. Peterson being the shooter, manipulated DNA results with LAPD experts, and lied to the media, the world, and the jury by using invalid and illegal tactics. Mr. Peterson also misrepresented the criminal trial's evidentiary record, including by claiming that his DNA results were manipulated, because the prosecutors stated that his, quote, "DNA on the gun was inconclusive," which, according to him, was an absolute lie. Mr. Peterson added, the prosecutors went on further to say inconclusive means and I cannot be excluded from the gun. Our new attorney, Jose Baez, hired one of the best DNA experts from the nation to carefully analyze the same DNA test the fair and correct way. The results came back exactly as I knew this whole time. My DNA is 100% excluded and 100% eliminated from the gun. In other words, it's physically and scientifically impossible for me to have ever touched or shot this gun. Based on the fundamentals of any DNA test, the only possible way for the LA Crime Lab to come up with an inconclusive test would literally be to stop the testing before it finished or completed its final result, which would have shown my full exclusion on the weapon. In other words, the prosecutors lied to my jury with false, incorrect, and incomplete DNA results, violating due process and 14th Amendment rights. And I've been over all the DNA claims and like the history of false claims in this, but it says in October 24, 2024, this is just last 2 months ago, Mr. Peterson disseminated a rumor through third parties, which falsely suggested that an appellate court declared his innocence over the incident. It is difficult, if not impossible, to imagine how the appellate court consolidating Mr. Peterson's petitions for writ of habeas corpus and appeal can be interpreted as a declaration of innocence. Mr. Peterson's interpretation underscores his desire to spread misinformation in an effort to save his public image. And that's the screenshot of the court file there. It says, on December 10th, 2024, Ms. Pete amended her complaint in her case against Ms. Cooper and added additional factual detail from Mr. Peterson's prison call logs, which shed light on Mr. Peterson's conspiratorial relationship with Ms. Cooper. In these prison calls, Mr. Peterson's father, when he thought no one was listening, asked his son about payments to Ms. Cooper for his harassment of Ms. Pete. How are they ever going to prove something like that? Mr. Peterson responded, exactly. Instead of denying that Ms. Cooper has been paid, they question how Ms. Pete uncovered their conspiracy. I want to hear those calls. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Let me see if there's any questions. Hit it up in the chat if you guys want to know. I'm building up the channel. I know I've got some members there, but I'm looking to do some more lives and bring the news to y'all. There's always stuff going on with the Diddy case and the Jay-Z case. We still haven't heard from the judge about Alex Spiro's filing on Friday, but I'm sure we'll be getting some more action soon. But on December 13th, 2024, Mr. Peterson proved once again that he is working together with Ms. Cooper to bully, harass, and further victimize Ms. Pete. Through a statement put out by Unite the People, the law firm Mr. Peterson himself recruited to represent Mr. Cooper in an effort to cover up their conspiracy. Mr. Peterson again falsely accused Ms. Pete of deceit and manipulation as part of a calculated attempt to continue his harassment campaign. Harm or injury. This is Mr. Peterson's continued harassment of Ms. Pete has caused her severe emotional distress and reputational harm. Mr. Peterson is fully aware of the impact of the psychological warfare he has waged against Ms. Pete, yet he continues to deputize his supporters to attack Ms. Pete's character and integrity. During the criminal trial, Ms. Pete testified that the incident ruined her life and forced her into a depressive state. Ms. Pete detailed numerous instances of being called a liar. She even recounted instances of death threats she has received since the incident. As Ms. Pete noted, I feel like I can't even hold a conversation with people for a long time. I don't want to talk to my friends. I don't want to talk to my man. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want anybody to ask me about this. I feel terrible talking about it. I feel like I had started to feel like because I don't matter, I don't even want to be on this earth no more. I wish he would have shot and killed me if I would have known I was going to go through this torture. Ms. Pete also detailed her experience after the incident in an article she authored in LA Magazine on August 8th, 2023, titled, "No One Can Take Your Power, Megan Thee Stallion in Her Own Words." A true and correct copy of the article is attached. In the article, Ms. Pete reflected on surviving the unimaginable. She survived being shot by someone she trusted and considered a close friend, and overcame the public humiliation of having her name and reputation dragged through the mud by Mr. Peterson for the entire world to see. Ms. Pete recalled that for years, her attacker laughed and joked about her trauma. For years, her attacker peddled false narratives about what happened on the night of July 12, 2020. For years, her attacker tried to leverage social media to take away her power. On how it impacted her mental health, Ms. Pete wrote, "The truth is that I started falling into a depression. I didn't feel like making music. I was in such a low place that I didn't even know what I wanted to rap about. I wondered if people even cared anymore. There would be times that I would be literally backstage or in my hotel, crying my eyes out, and then I'd have to pull Megan Pete together and be Megan Thee Stallion." As to the constant harassment she continues to receive from Mr. Peterson and third parties at his direction, Ms. Pete discussed in her documentary, Megan Thee Stallion, in her own words, that she would rather not live through this than have to live with this. In this documentary, Ms. Pete discusses her suicidal thoughts that led to her 1-month stay at a mental hospital retreat right before the criminal trial. Years after the criminal trial, Mr. Peterson, by and through his media puppets, continued to reoffend Ms. Pete by forcing her to relive this trauma. Mr. Peterson's harassment of Ms. Pete began after the incident, long before the criminal trial. Mr. Peterson denied that Ms. Pete was ever even shot, widely publicizing the false narrative that she fabricated her own assault. For example, on September 25th, 2020, Mr. Peterson released a track titled Money Over Fallouts, in which he raps, "How the fuck you get shot in your foot, don't hit no bones or tendons." We heard about that at sentencing. For a part of his 10-year sentence, prosecutors wanted aggravating factors for the online harassment, and that was Hereford agreed. Although Hereford didn't give the 13 years. Remember, prosecutors wanted 13 years, and Hereford sentenced him to 10. It said, to shield Miss Pete from Mr. Peterson's harmful conduct, Judge Hereford issued both a protective order and gag order against Mr. Peterson on October 13th, 2020 and February 21st, 2021, respectively. The protective order prohibited Mr. Peterson from getting within 100 yards of Miss Pete, and the gag order barred Mr. Peterson from contacting or harassing Miss Pete and from discussing evidence of the case with outside parties, orders Mr. Peterson violated and for which he was imprisoned and fined. In or around October 2020, Mr. Peterson published an Instagram video that claimed Miss Pete was endorsing a false narrative about being shot. On July 25th, 2021, during Miss Pete's performance at the Rolling Loud Festival in Miami, Florida, Mr. Peterson got within 100 yards of the stage on which Miss Pete was performing in violation of the protective order. When Miss Pete learned that Mr. Peterson was in such close proximity, she grew fearful and anxious. And we've heard about that in the proceedings too. That came up in sentencing and was litigated before trial too. But following the festival, Mr. Peterson made public comments on X, formerly Twitter, that he was starting to not give a fuck about his gag order. On October 23rd, 2021, the court found that Mr. Peterson had violated his criminal protective order and it increased his bail to $250,000. Mr. Peterson was admonished and advised that further violation would result in remand. I wrote an article about this. I remember when I was going over the DNA claims. On February 23rd, 2020, in a since deleted social media post, Mr. Peterson's close friend and media puppet, DJ Academics, falsely claimed that the pretrial hearing revealed that Mr. Peterson's DNA was nowhere to be found on the gun. DJ Academics posted this tweet before the February 23rd, 2020 court hearing, during which the DNA report was discussed. In actuality, during the hearing, Mr. Peterson's attorney merely notified the court that his team was retaining a DNA expert, not that his DNA was not found on the gun. So yeah. After the court hearing, Academics posted to his X, formerly Twitter, account, "I saw the stock myself. It literally says it was inconclusive in finding Tory DNA on the gun or magazine." Academics also tweeted directly at Miss Pete, "You literally won all your awards off sympathy off this. You got shot storyline. You so bothered over my tweeting and facts about Tory case, go ask the DNA. DNA results was submitted to Discovery. Why you care so much about what the internet says? Oh, I know. You've been living off a narrative, and it's sad. You made it where if Tory don't go to jail, you don't win." On or around March 12th, 2022, defendant published a disturbing music video with lyrics and violent imagery referencing the criminal trial in Miss Pete. In his track titled Cap, a slang term meaning lie. I'm downtown here, so we've got some sirens going by here. I'll take a break here. It's part of the excitement of living in downtown LA. You got emergency vehicles blowing by here every 2 seconds. There we go. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, there's a hearing on January 9th in LA Superior Court, which I will absolutely go to. I don't know if they'll allow cameras. Probably not. They probably don't really do cameras in restraining order hearings, but they're open to the public. Mr. Peterson is seen in a butcher's shop, holding a blood-stained butcher's knife before slicing through a horse's dismembered leg, and hoof wrapping, said the beef was over and this was motherfucking Cap. That was motherfucking Cap. Attached here to as Exhibit 16 are still shots from the music video depicting these scenes. On information and belief, these scenes allude to Miss Pete's injuries from when she was shot by Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson cutting through a horse's leg is a reference to Miss Pete's stage name, Megan Thee Stallion. In the next scene of the music video, Mr. Peterson is seen standing outside a courthouse, grabbing a microphone from a reporter as he raps, "Bitch is trying to end me, so I cannot be polite." On information and belief, this is directed at Miss Pete, and the imagery in the video refers to the court's gag order that Mr. Peterson cannot publicly comment on the case. The music video also features a scene involving Mr. Peterson and a woman with physical similarities to Miss Pete as he raps, "Ken just got them two best friends to fuck, I said goals." There you go. On information and belief, this refers to Miss Peterson's claim of having sexual relations with Miss Pete and her then friend, Miss Harris. Even the court's orders and admonishment did not stop Mr. Peterson's offensive and harmful behavior. On April 5th, 2022, Mr. Peterson violated the discovery protective order, this time by disclosing the LAPD DNA report, which was the subject of the discovery protective order, to his millions of followers on his social media account. To add insult to injury, Mr. Peterson also posted degrading and derogatory tweets about Miss Pete, implying that he never apologized for shooting Miss Pete. Rather, his apology was because he got caught fucking two best friends. We've seen this. I mean, all this stuff came up in sentencing. Not so much in trial, but sentencing it did. If he had testified, the judge said that he was going to let prosecutors ask him about the Cap music video, but that never came up. It says Mr. Peterson's blatant disregard for the court's orders led to an increase of his bail to $350,000. Mr. Peterson was also remanded to custody before posting a new bond. And so these are the exhibits. And this is the jury trial or lawsuit against Milagro, which we've gone over and seen. I've got a separate video on that up too if you guys want to get into the details on that. But that's another one where I was talking about this actually at a Christmas party over the weekend, and one of the biggest defenses for Milagro against the argument that some of those statements are defamatory is that they're just crazy on their face. Like normal casual people, if they heard some of the stuff and some of her rants, like her rant about how Megan is like mentally incapacitated and needs a guardian, there's like zero chance a casual listener would listen to that and like think that it's true. They would think that the person saying that is the one who's mentally incapacitated and needs a guardian. So some of that stuff I think would be stricken as defamatory, but not necessarily everything. But thank you, Silence. This is the one. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it says thank you for being the only authentic, unbiased reporter. I have friends who are reporters, and I think they're authentic and unbiased, but I appreciate it. I try to keep it real and cover things on here. And this is still the lawsuit. Remember, these are all the attachments. We'll get into the photos. They said they had some screenshots in here from the videos. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see first of all, who the judge is on January 9th and how they handle this one, because, I mean, he's already in jail or he's in state prison. I mean, they could issue a don't come within 100 yards, but that would almost be, I mean, he's not up for parole until like September 2029. So it's unclear to me how long this restraining order would actually be in effect. Because if it's, I mean, is it like 2 years, 5 years? Because if it's 5 years, it would only be like 2 months after he gets out. But it's just a little unclear, like how this is enforceable. Like they basically want like a restraining order against Milagro, but through him. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the judge does with it and if anything gets approved. But here they're going through Milagro's statements. This is everything that they cited in the filing, and they've also brought up some of these statements and in the defamation lawsuit, which, I mean, I think the defamation lawsuit, a lot of those claims in there are pretty weak. Like I said, I mean, in the end, she has a right to say that she thinks Tory's innocent. But, oh yeah. You know what? That's a good reminder. Now that I'm not just like a slave to the YSL trial, I gotta get my merch linked on YouTube. The Megan, the reporter, and my googly eyed bitch mugs. I had to honor Tory's nickname for me. I don't know if you guys have seen the googly eyed bitch merch and website, but it'd be better if I could just easily link you through YouTube in the chat. But I got to get everything approved through Google. But this is the website with. Oh, we got another emergency vehicle driving by. But little break to plug the store here. Megan the Reporter official merchandise. Got the mug. The mug, the googly eyed bitch mug, is far and away the most popular. But I did just fulfill an order for a medium Megan the Reporter sweatshirt for a lawyer friend down in San Clemente, and it's going to be his gift at the office white elephant party. So should be great. So yes, yeah, I got some merch. I still have some left too. I need to get some more sticker. I've still got some of everything, but the one thing I should order more of, and because it's good to just hand out to people, are the stickers, and those are the cheapest too. I'll send you a sticker for $5, free shipping. I'll just put a postage stamp on it and put it in an envelope and send it to you. But the other stuff, the shipping, and I got to figure out the shipping rates are a little touchy here and there, because you don't want to overcharge people, but then if you don't charge enough, you'll screw yourself over on shipping. But I've got it pretty well figured out. I got it back in January, got it set up back in January, and was selling a lot of stuff, and then moved up to LA, had kind of a lot of stuff to do, and haven't really promoted it much over the summer, but I promoted it a while back on Twitter and sold some more stuff, so that was fun. But back to the restraining order petition here. Again, there's going to be a hearing on January 9th. At least that's tentatively scheduled. Guess it could get delayed, but right now it's scheduled for that. I don't know. I question whether her just retweeting stuff is like actually harassment, but they're trying to show like the whole, a pattern of conduct and all the conduct. This is the sentencing memorandum from his sentencing, obviously, which all this stuff is old news. I remember writing articles about all this. That's when they asked for 13 years and the judge only gave him 10. Remember, his appeal is fully briefed too. I guess he could add to it theoretically if he wanted to, but it's kind of in the ball's in the appellate court to see if I guess it's the attorneys can waive oral argument if they want, but you'd think they wouldn't here. They would want to do oral argument. So sometime next year, I'm thinking they'll take that up. Honestly, most of this stuff, I'm like, can we just ignore all this stuff? I understand how. Is it possible for us all to just ignore Milagro? It's kind of easier said than done, but guys, she's harassed me. Harassed. It's like, just block all these people and click out of it and go on. But it's on a much bigger scale when you're a celebrity and you're dealing with all this stuff. But like I said, especially in some of the defamation claims, I'm like, the biggest defense against some of that being defamation is the fact that it's just on its face crazy. It sounds crazy. Like regular people out at a grocery store, if they heard this stuff, they would not think it was true. But yeah, I'm not, hard to enforce, because I can see having an order against him, but the idea that he can't harass her for through third parties, it's like, it's so vague. How do they prove a connection? They would have to, it's like, it seems like they want Milagro specifically named in the restraining order, which would basically be a restraining order against her. But I don't know. We'll see how it happens. Yeah, I mean, our tweets harassment. Yeah, I would, especially. I mean, I had it on a smaller scale, but I dealt with this too because, especially after when the motion for new trial was going on, Milagro was ranting and raving about me all the time on there, and I would just like randomly start getting all these replies, and some of them were really nasty too. You know, they were going through and finding all this stuff about me and blah 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 blah, and like, if you don't have anything else going on and you're start seeing all these replies, it can be a big bummer. Like, and really, but one thing that helped me, especially this year, is I got on TikTok and was doing all the posts in the YSL trial on TikTok, and I built a big following on TikTok, and everybody's much nicer on TikTok. It's much nicer to go on there and just see all the comments from people being like, thank you so much for covering the trial on here. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is way better than toxic Twitter. And Twitter, especially under Elon, has just gotten really, really toxic. Oh yeah, and that's another thing, because I see it. All the I mean, just people are just obsessed with her. People talking about how she's a flop and her career is not successful. I'm like, she is 100 times. She's much more mainstream and famous than him. I mean, that's just a given. But yeah, I mean, her tour just made 40 million, and like I said, I mean, I think people who aren't even into rap have at least heard of her, and she's got all these endorsements. She's had shoes out with Nike. I mean, the idea that her career is somehow like slipping or something. It's like, oh, and Tory's is on the rise. He's in fucking prison. I mean, it's crazy, and it's just like this weird gaslighting that I'm like, and I know that especially when you're a celebrity and your online sales and your song and your promotion so depends online. It's not, you can't ignore it. It's not like you can just click out of it and not look at consider this stuff for a week, because the stuff that drives these discussions is the stuff that's driving your business. But I just want to be like, is there any way for us all to just ignore all this shit? Like, click out of it? Because one thing I've noticed, it's very unique to Twitter too. There's so many bot accounts on Twitter, and then just so many anonymous accounts. You can just be anybody you want on there and post whatever. It's very easy to like get into the discussion. But, let's see. These are all just the exhibits again, but I'm assuming he's going to file a response to it. I'm a little unfamiliar with the exact process for a restraining order, but should ask Nancy at Rolling Stone. I know she covered the one involving Trevor Bauer, that Major League Baseball pitcher. But this will be my first civil restraining order hearing in LA Superior Court on January 9th. But we'll see. I can see a judge being like, I'm very sympathetic to all this, but I mean, good God, he's in prison. And the whole idea, I mean, maybe against him, yes, no online posting or stuff, but you know, his account, say that his accounts can't mention her, but the idea that the third party thing is just so vague. I mean, they would need to get a little more specific than that. And then if they're saying, well, just Milagro, it's like, that's basically just a restraining order against Milagro. Maybe you should, I mean, should they just file that? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll just grant it right away. Say it was the best restraining order petition ever written, but we'll see. This is our LA article. We've all seen this. One thing that I think this whole thing just underscores is that, I mean, it's just such a bummer that all this stuff is going on, because clearly it's bothering her. And if, you know, they wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't still going on and bothering her. So it's just a fucking bummer to see, you know, why can't people just get over this shit? But on the one hand, it's like the idea that just because somebody gets convicted of a crime by a jury, he can't ever say that he's innocent. Like, the way that they're going to deal with that is through his parole. The stuff that he's doing right now is tanking his parole chances. Although, I mean, it's not like they can hold him longer than his 10 years, but I mean, the parole board is going to be all about, you know, reform, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, this, I have no regrets, I'm innocent stuff isn't going to help him with that. But, I don't know. I mean, the idea that is a judge going to issue a restraining order telling him he can't ever say that he didn't do it? It's like that. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But it's a little unclear what exactly they're asking for here. They don't come within 100 feet of her. I mean, I'm sure, but it's like, look, he's in prison. I don't think there's any risk of that. But Oh, this is his pre-sentencing plea to George Gascon. These are the screenshots from the Cap music video. Yep, there we go. There's all the Cap screenshots. Oh, what is that? That's the writ that he filed. So again, I mean, I'm sure, a judge could be sympathetic and think that the timing is suspicious. But what do they want the judge to do in response? It's not like a judge is not going to issue an order saying that Tory Lanez can no longer file any court documents in his appeal. I don't think he's going to. I think he could still, but like I said, the appeal is fully briefed, so that I think that's kind of past. I don't think there's much of a chance that he's going to. But I mean, the idea that a judge would, like, as part of a restraining order, say that he can no longer file anything, it's like, that's not going to happen. But that's pretty much it. Pretty much all the exhibits, just his writ and everything, which we've been over. And I've got on legalaffairsandtrials.com if you guys want to check it out. But again, how's Twitter doing? It's crazy all the attention this case gets on Twitter. Oh yeah, 3,000. Hearing scheduled for January 9th. And this is just the form that they filled out again. So yeah, I'm not sure what the deadline is for him to file a response if he could, but yeah, I mean, her being a public figure too. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff is just fair comment, and then especially the alleged defamatory statements from Milagro. One easy defense for her is that a lot of her statements in her rants are just crazy on their face, and it's like the chance that like a member of the public is gonna actually like think this is true is like slim to none. But that's just an opinion too. A judge could see it differently. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, there's been a lot of stuff going on. I was streaming earlier the YSL trial stuff. We had a plea. Miles Farley, who was like the least involved. He's the guy who made the Make America Slime Again clothing. He took a plea, an Alfred plea, which means he did not admit guilt, but acknowledged there's enough evidence to find him guilty. He is on probation for 5 years. And then Demise McMullen was considering taking a plea, but he ended up not doing it. And the prosecutor said the deal would have been, I think it was a RICO plea, and then also involuntary manslaughter for Donovan Thomas's murder. And he would have had to serve 20 years. So Nard turned that down, and he's going to be going to trial in February with the other guys like Demekion Garlington, Christian Eppinger, and two more. But Miles Farley is the one that's out, and that clip's up online if you want to see it. And then Stillwell did a global plea in 3 cases that he had remaining, and he's going to get out. And then Yak Gotti, Diamante Kendrick, is not getting out immediately on bail because the judge said that probation claims that he has a warrant out for a probation violation. So the judge is like trying to deal with that. But if you guys go to my channel, you can see the videos on that. Any updates on the Puffy Jay-Z thing? No. And where we last left that is Friday is Alex Spiro's filings, and Alex has got to know this, that his filings actually asking for the one on Friday that asked the judge to shorten the 21-day period for when he can file a motion to strike. He asked her to shorten that from 21 days to 1 day. He had to have known that was had zero chance of being granted. I mean, he filed that on a Friday night. He asked for it to become 1 day. So that's either Saturday or Monday, I guess, depending on whether you're working on business days. And she didn't, she still hasn't responded to it. The judge hasn't. And this is, it's now almost Wednesday. So there was a little sense of entitlement in his filings, thinking that a federal judge who has 400 cases would do something like that. Because the whole idea of her having this 21-day period before somebody can file a motion to strike on a lawsuit, you have to give the other side 21 days to withdraw the claims. So you could just take it out of the court's hair and resolve it on your own. But obviously, Spiro sees this as different, and I'd argue that it is, given the magnitude, the fame of the person being sued, and just the tactics that we've seen of the lawyer. But after the NBC interview came out, which really I think discredited the plaintiff quite enough, to the point it's I don't think a lot of lawyers actually would have filed that lawsuit, but it is filed, so there's just court procedures to deal with. Where, like I said, this judge's got some more sirens here. This judge's court rules say he's got to wait 21 days to file a motion to strike. He wants to file a motion to strike right away. So his request to the judge was shorten that from 21 to 1 day. He filed that on Friday night. It's now Tuesday night. Judge hasn't responded to it at all. What's most interesting, it's not surprising that the judge hasn't responded, because like I said, she's probably a little taken aback by the sense of entitlement in these filings, and she's got 400 cases and she's been a judge for 10 years. It is surprising that we have not heard anything from Tony Buzbee. I mean, he was running his mouth on Twitter every 2 seconds, responding to this and back and forth. But at least, unless I missed it, I have not seen any kind of statement from him about this. I know that Spiro has said that he's casting blame on another law firm, saying that this other law firm did due diligence. But I'm wondering if he just told Spiro that privately in a phone call or an email or whatever. But I've not seen any kind of public statement from the guy, which is what the hell? I mean, it's weird, because he definitely looks, you just look at his background and everything. It's okay, none of this is really actually surprising, but it is kind of surprising, because it's when you see this lawsuit, you're a lawyer would have to be absolutely insane to file a lawsuit like that and publicize it and not have done his due diligence and know everything in and out about the case. It's crazy. But when you look at his background, Tony Buzbee's background, it's yeah, he might fit the bill of somebody crazy enough to do that, But yeah, it's still just a statement from December 20th, this whole, which I said in another live, why doesn't he just post the call? But, he was so just back and forth on this 1 day. And then this comes out, his plaintiff is exposed as a lot of discrepancies in the story. I mean, she still stands by the story, and she still, has her day in court in this whole process to go through. But it's for all the statements that he gave online, you'd think he would say something here. And in the end, if he has issued something somewhere, I have not seen it. But the way he was just everywhere a while back, if he was going to say something, you'd think he'd post it on here. So that's pretty unbelievable. And it's also surprising that he hasn't filed anything in the case. The last filing in the case is, I believe, Spiro's letter on Friday night that the judge has not responded to yet. But let's pull up the case, because I was thinking we'd see some kind of filing from Buzbee tonight or over the weekend. But it is Spiro points out in there that he didn't do a notice of appearance in the case, and which technically shields him from sanctions in the Southern District of New York, because he's not admitted to practice and he's technically not a lawyer in the case. So So yeah, it's this letter motion that he filed. That's the last one. Alex Spiro's urgent, writing the court of extraordinary and grave importance. And Annalisa Torres has not given him the time of day yet. So yeah, I'm wondering, I don't know about, yeah, it could be something, defamation, something. I don't know. I think they're exploring all options there. I'm not sure what exactly it'll be, but it definitely seemed like they're going to be going on the offensive too. They have a very like offensive defense stance. Yeah, the plaintiff interview is a complete disaster. I agree. I mean, the case kind of on its face just seemed, it's like, and I've always been kind of urging people to be skeptical of all these lawsuits, especially the Busby lawsuits. I mean, I'm not saying that all of them are bullshit, but it's like the idea that they're all just slam dunk, especially, I mean, Busby seems like he has some problems. I mean, he has 120 lawsuits against Diddy. You know, it's just like, gosh. And there's a reason that when all these lawsuits get filed against Diddy, I mean, maybe I'll do a screenshot and show all the filings, but I hate just like trumpeting out the complaints about him and being like, oh, you know, another one in detail, because it's like they might be, you just, you know, you don't know. I just try to focus on the criminal case. So yeah, I mean, I was but the argument against that is, of course, like, not, you got to imagine that not all these lawsuits are just complete bullshit. So I mean, Tony Busby seems suspicious, but it's like that doesn't mean that his client is completely full of crap. But yeah, I think the plaintiff interview, the NBC interview on Friday, really like ended it. Like, I think it changed the whole case. I mean, like I said, it was already, I don't think there was much momentum against Jay-Z, but he didn't have as much momentum against the, you know, this is a fraud as I think he wanted to. But that's what exposed it. Because in the end, I mean, it's all about the client. If you can expose the client as a fraud, then it's like, who is this lawyer? But I think just focusing on the lawyer instead of the client is like kind of putting the cart before the horse. So yeah, we're just waiting for a response from, well, Busby. Like I said, it's not really that surprising that we haven't heard of the judge. She's heard from the judge. She knows that a lot of this stuff is theatrical. Like, Spiro filed this for the press, and he probably knows damn well she's not going to change that 21 days to 1 day, but he needed to file something on the record kind of sounding the alarm about this. But the biggest surprise that we have, it's amazing that we haven't heard from Busby in any of this. Like, what the hell? But yeah, I think next week is Christmas, and Hanukkah starts next week too. So I don't know how much action there will be. But Diddy's in court tomorrow. I'm not sure if there's really anything on the docket. He's given up on his bail attempts, but it's a status conference for the case, because right now we still haven't seen a superseding indictment, and he's got a trial scheduled in May. And his lawyers were going to complain about evidence, Brady material that they didn't think had been disclosed or something. But then they just got a big discovery disclosure like today or yesterday, and they filed something saying they want to check that out first. So thanks guys for tuning in, and I definitely want to keep covering this and doing more lives. So like I said, I know I've got a couple members in here, but if you guys, you know, poke around on the channel, buy some memberships, I'll be so stoked. Happy holidays, everybody. Yes, Merry Christmas. Hope everybody gets some time off with the family, but keep an eye out, keep an eye on the channel. It's been a really busy month. It's like one of the busier news months that I've seen, so we'll see more. So Bumpy, you're welcome. But shout out to the replay crew too. I'll try to find some way to like splice this out into a news video that just kind of sums up the case. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Eric's Escapades. I appreciate it. See you guys later. Good night. Oh, I'm going to do an interview tomorrow with Angela D. Williams about the YSL trial. So that should be fun. I think it's 11 a.m. My time, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. East Coast. So I'll get that up. And thank you for the subscription. It was so just YSL trial all the time. Like, seriously, if you guys want to watch the trial, I mean, I've got the best archives too for like topics and stuff that you want to see. It's pretty searchable. But I'm now that the trial's over, going to be doing a lot of different stuff on here. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys later.